I think it is worth it to spend a few words about vaccines. It is a big issue. I can see that many of you are starting now to take some notes. It's a complicated issue. The theme of this talk is the mission of the society. So we will see what's the relation, if there is any, between the mission of the society and the vaccines. So the society, Saint Pius X, seems too prudent about this question. Why the society doesn't speak up about this problem? All humanity is now is kneeling, is exhausted because of this problem all over the world. Why the society doesn't speak up? The question is legitimate. We will try to answer this question. I will try to explain. So I'm not going to settle the issue. I'm not going to answer the thousands of problem, objections raised up in the web. You can spend your entire life, if you want, to have a complete idea of what's going on, updating yourself, I hope, every day, because every day there are new elements. But the question is really complicated. We don't deny this, not at all. But I want just to let you know why the society is prudent. In other terms, without settling the issue, we will try to put this issue at its place. This is the purpose of this few words. Well, until 1 year ago, mankind was concerned about COVID only. Is it made in China? Was it made in Taiwan? Does it kill? Does it not? Does it exist? Is it an influence like others? People in the hospital, they have been killed or they died out of COVID. Oh, all this is a question. They have been very, very common until 1 year ago. They attract all the attention. Right now, I don't say that we forgot about the COVID, but right now, all the attention is spent, paid to the vaccine issue. And that's understandable. In a way, the governments, they try to impose the vaccine to everybody. It provokes a general excitement, and most of all, it provokes two camps, people who are against and people who are in favor. There are not a lot of people neutral. And the web provides all the necessary informations, tools to both of these groups. So there is a general panic because of the danger of the vaccine in itself. But there is another panic, especially in people who are pro-vaccines, because mankind cannot go back to normality without the mandatory vaccine for everybody. So you see, the dialectics is quite strong. As a result, if you get the COVID, your lungs are weakened. But people without COVID doesn't keep outside of the problem. People without COVID are in a way more stressed than the sick ones. So let's try to step aside for a few minutes of this very complicated situation of these two camps, if you prefer, trying to analyze a bit deeper what's going on. Right now, the great debate is around the side effects. The side effects of a vaccine produced very, very quickly, too quickly. It is true. And related to this medical issue, there is the political issue. How can the governments, the authorities, impose such a vaccine which is not tasted enough? You know, normally for a new vaccine, you need 7, 8 years. I leave to the doctors the details about all this. 7, 8 years for a complete testing, experimentation. Everything was done very, very quickly. Why? Because there is a business behind. There are several countries that they were producing their own vaccine, and they gave up 6 months ago, because when the universal vaccinations started, they realized that they were going to lose the market. So there is a big business behind. The side effects as a consequence of this lack of experimentation are not known enough. This is the first problem, but there is another problem. Also a medical problem. This vaccine, it seems, it doesn't last. It doesn't work enough. So, medical side, and again, political side. Political problem related to the first one. The authorities are making vaccinations mandatory, and they have to convince two kinds of people. First of all, they have to convince the non-vaccinated people. They have to tell them, to explain to them that it's working, it's worth to receive the vaccine, and that's the only way we can get out from the crisis. This is the message for people not yet vaccinated. But for people that they already got at least one, the vaccine, they have to explain that they need a second, a third injection. Why? Because it doesn't work. So the first one, they have to be convinced that it works. The second one, that it doesn't work enough. They are talking already about, of course, the third injection and then a booster every year. But they don't know how long it will last, this problem. So, let's get to the point. Is it complicated? Yes. Is it a bit crazy, all this? Yes. Yes. Is the stress that right now is on the entire humanity, is it understandable? Yes. Yes. Is it legitimate to question all this? Yes. Is it legitimate to be against mandatory vaccination? Yes. Yes. But this problem, this big problem, is related to a medical issue. This is the first reason why the Society of St. Pius X is not entering straight into this debate. Of course, a priest can give a suggestion, can advise, but the society as such is not entering into this debate. The mission of the society is not to settle medical issues. The mission of the society is not to give an answer about all the possible side effects of the vaccine. And that's not only for COVID, even for other drugs. If they produce a new vaccine against chickenpox, and it seems there are some side effects, or that vaccine is not tested enough. Well, this is not the problem of the Society of St. Pius X. This is, I repeat, I stress, it's a medical problem that we cannot transform into a theological problem. Again, a priest can give a suggestion, can advise on a personal basis, of course. You see, on the opposite. Let's take another drug. There is a new drug produced against a cold that it seems has no problem. A normal drug against a normal cold. Well, if the society states that drug is okay, and then the drug will provoke allergies, for instance, the society is going to respond about the allergies. But where is the mistake? The mistake would be the society expressed herself on a particular topic which doesn't correspond to her mission. This is the main reason. But there are other reasons why the society, again, is kind of stepping aside, doesn't want to enter straight into the debate. It's a problem of globalism. Globalism, conspiracy. It seems that globalism and conspiracy started 1 year ago with the vaccines. So now it's clear, through the vaccine, there is a worldwide, universal authority imposing the same drugs for the same illness all over the world. That's globalism. Finally, the globalism did show up. The monster did show up. Be careful, because if all the attention is paid to this particular problem, and I repeat, we don't deny that there is a big problem, the risk is to forget that conspiracy started 300 years ago against the church. What's globalism? Globalism is this idea, this project, this intention to replace the Catholic Church with another universal authority. And you know very well what I'm talking about. But let's not forget the origin of this conspiracy against the Church, which is affecting the entire humanity. Let's put, in other terms, the current crisis, the current problems inside this entire picture. But to keep the entire picture, you can focus only about the present problem, talking about the present problem only. You cannot. And we have not the right to lose the entire picture. Another point, which I think is important, let's keep a supernatural perspective. It's normal, you are a priest, it's normal that you talk always about a supernatural perspective, but here the problem is the vaccine, and it's a liquid, so there is nothing supernatural. No. The COVID, as every pandemic throughout the history, COVID is also a punishment allowed by divine providence in order to purify us. Because, there is a danger. I said at the beginning, we got tradition, we kept tradition, but we are not necessarily better than the others. We are sinners also. And if there is a universal punishment, it's for us also. If God allowed COVID, it's not just for the sinners, for the sins of the others. It's for ours also. We die also. Traditional people and priests die also out of COVID. But I go back to the problem of globalism. Pay attention. During this year, thanks to the attention paid to the vaccine, which absorbed, again, for different reasons, the entire humanity, the worst laws against the natural order, they have been approved in many, many countries. In Europe, right now, in Western Europe, in every country, the same-sex marriage is approved, except one country where there is still a debate. But our focus is not there. And since our focus is somewhere else, it is much easier to promote and to approve all those laws. They are the main expression of globalism, of the destruction of the natural order, the order that the church was keeping, was protecting, in order to create a new world with new laws, with the new authority, with or without COVID, with or without vaccines. This project didn't start 2 years ago. It's much older. And a last reason. Thank you for your patience and your attention also. There is another reason, again, why the society steps aside. Is this anti-vaccine alliance. It is very heterogeneous. There are Catholics, but there are people without a special political or religious creed. But there are people from the right side in this alliance against the vaccines, and mostly people from the extreme left, to use a political language. Anarchist. The Green. You know who are the Green? The Green are the people committed to the safeguard of, not the creation, of Earth, the ecologists. This is a good left, extreme left. They know what they are talking about. They have targets which are very, very clear. Those kind of parties are quite strong in Europe. They're against the vaccine. In the name of what? In the name of what? In the name of individual freedom, human dignity, human rights. In other terms, with my body, I do whatever I want. With my life, I do whatever I want, so I decide if I take or not the vaccine. We find again the same slogans of the 60s, of the 70s, of a particular class of women. With my belly, I do whatever I want. You see, we find again the same principles of the new order started 300 years ago in the name of human rights, human dignity. Let's be careful. On the other side, the pro-vaccine also, I think it's good to stress this point. It's a paradox. They fight in the name of the same principles, in the name of human rights, in the name of freedom. Why? The conclusion is the same, but the principles are the same, but the conclusion is not the same. They want the mandatory vaccine in order to go back to normality. Because if the others, they don't take the vaccine, I'm touched in my freedom, I'm limited in my freedom. So I cannot travel, I cannot go on holiday, I cannot earn money as I used to do before, I cannot enjoy life. Why? Because I still have to put a mask or other restriction because of the others. So I want to impose to the others, in the name of human rights, the mandatory vaccine. In other terms, I don't want to have any restrictions because of the others. So we all take the vaccine. It's a paradox. The same principles are on one side and on the other side. Shall we enter into this debate? Shall we take simply a part into this debate, entering straight? The Society St. Pius X, for the reasons I gave, and other reasons, of course, that we don't have the time here to develop, prefer, I repeat, to step aside. But of course, it's a big issue. The issue is not settled, as I said. We live present and we leave the future to divine providence. And we are sure that divine providence as well has never abandoned us in our struggle, fight for tradition. Is not going to abandon us in the middle of this new crisis. Thank you for your attention.
The first question is about vaccines, which probably surprises no one. So the question, and a lot of these will be addressed to the panel and occasionally to, at least initially to an individual, but everyone's happy to weigh in. The question, Father Pagliarani, is more or less, in the end, is there an official position of the society on vaccines, on the COVID vaccine, whether it's the articles that have been published in the past or your talk? In light of your talk yesterday, is the only position the question of moral principles? Yeah, I thought I'd start with an easy one.
Yes, in my talk yesterday, I tried to focus on on the main debate, the nowadays debate, which is on the side effects and, as I said, as a consequence, the political problem. How can an authority impose that vaccine which is not tested, which is not sure? Of course, there are moral questions, especially for this link with fetus, the cells coming from abortions. Why the society gave this particular answer, and why the society on that particular point didn't step aside, as we are doing now for the main present debate. Well, question is quite easy to understand. Our faithful asked us if I am a father, I have a family, I am the only one earning money, I don't have another solution, if I am obliged to take the vaccine, am I doing anything immoral? Because if it is immoral, I will refuse the vaccine and I will entrust the future of my family to divine providence. So they asked this question, this specific question. The society, you know the answer, the society esteems that it is legitimate to accept the vaccine. Nevertheless, it remains a prudent decision. Anyone has to take into consideration the dangers for his health and so on. So, to go back to this controversial, I acknowledge the question is extremely delicate. As soon as we mention the word abortion, we feel repulsion. We feel, of course, we don't want to have anything to do with that. It's clear. And we cannot have anything to do with that. But the principle that the society applies, I try to explain maybe better this point, is that it is, in some circumstances, legitimate to take advantage of the evil of others. I will give you some examples. It is legitimate provided you don't cooperate to the bad action. So, the society doesn't push anybody to receive the vaccine, but at the same time the society doesn't condemn, and that was the meaning of that article, doesn't condemn somebody who, in his personal particular condition, situation, will receive the vaccine. I try to give you some examples of this principle, which is a classical principle of theology. St. Thomas Aquinas also is using this principle, is teaching this principle. You know that you can take out the cornea of somebody who is dead, even 2-3 hours after death. Is it legitimate to take out the cornea from somebody who is dead? Yes. Yes, there is not the problem that we can find with the organs. Right? It is a tissue. So, can you take out the cornea from somebody who was killed? Question. Yes. provided you don't kill him on purpose to take out the cornea. But that's the point. That's the point. But you are taking advantage of a murder. Somebody was killed. And without that sin, horrible sin, but you couldn't take out the cornea. But of course, you don't cooperate in any manner to that bad action. Another example, if it can be useful for you. Can the District of the United States of America donate your money for the building of a mosque? Of a synagogue? I think no, and I hope we are all, we agree all. Can the District of the US receive as a donation a mosque in order to transform the mosque into a church?
The answer is yes.
But yes, in the south of Spain, you have cathedrals that they were mosques, and they kept something of the old ancient mosque. So it's another example. We could, of course, we could multiply the examples. So
Pantheon.
Pantheon, please. Good.
The other example, obviously in Rome, the churches that were used, the Pantheon. I mean, here Christians were martyred there, and yet it was used.
Yeah,
Or
there are
other
dozens
churches.
and dozens of churches
Yeah.
in Rome built on pagan temples. Can I just give as a footnote to the Superior's remarks? Until Catholic Answers had our own statement with respect to the vaccine up on Catholic.com, I was very happy to refer to people the article, the first one in particular, with respect to the vaccine, which is thoroughly consistent with Catholic moral theology.
Yes, but it is understandable that when we mention abortion, there is a repulsion towards abortion. I'll give you another example, the last one, if you allow me, because the question is important. Something that will make, will feel you the same repulsion. Can you eat the meat? Well, it's not anymore a modern problem. There's some meat offered to the idols. The question arose 2,000 years ago. In the pagan rites, they used to offer sacrifices, of course, and a part of the meat then was consumed by the offerers. And that meat was sold in the market. Or maybe you were invited from a pagan and he was serving you that meat offered the day before to the idols. So as a matter, as a part of a pagan sacrifice. So can you eat that meat? Could they eat that meat, if you prefer? Because the Jews, they were scandalized. And St. Paul said, yes, you can, provided you take into consideration the very fact that you could scandalize others. But this is another matter. But they could eat that meat. Of course, a pagan rite was the abomination for a Jew, but like for us also. Nevertheless, they could eat that meat. So it's understandable. It's understandable. Again, in face of the abomination of abortion, there is this repulsion. But I take advantage of this explanation to try to make you understand why the society was prudent, and again, if anyone is obliged or there are particular situation, needs, well, the society esteems that is just taking advantage of a big sin of somebody else, but it doesn't participate to that sin.